Today I thought we would talk about where people can retire on $1,000 a month. We did a video similar to this a few years back, and much to my surprise, in 2025, there are still places on this earth that are affordable and not embroiled in a civil war, a normal war, or an underwear shortage. Those are places you should always avoid. Today we are listing 10 countries where you can live on $1,000 a month or close to that. Of course, this all depends on how you want to live, and this video is geared towards the more frugal retiree. If you want to retire and buy a beachfront condo in Monaco, this isn't the video for you. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, Mexico. Mexico is the American retirees' training wheels for living abroad. Familiar groceries, decent healthcare, flights that don't require a Sherpa, and tacos that will ruin you for the rest of your life. They're just too good down there. You go everywhere else and they're just not the same. The big metro areas can chew up your budget if you insist on the most photogenic corner of Roma Norte or La Condesa, where rent inflation is a sport. Step a few subway stops away or settle in a mid-sized city like Puebla, and suddenly you're paying about what your HOA fees were back home, minus the angry emails about your trash bins. Numbio's data shows that rents and day-to-day costs markedly lower than the US. Mexico City's core is pricier, but non-touristy neighborhoods and other cities stay comfortably under our $1,000 mission if you keep the roof deck and infinity pool dream in check. Subscriber Doug from Minnesota said he arrived in Merida determined to live like a local. That's on the Yucatan Peninsula. He immediately ordered iced coffee at noon in July. 5 minutes later, he understood why locals take siestas and why deodorant is a line item. He said it gets hot there. He's used to Minnesota and he moves to Mexico and about sweats through every piece of clothing he has. After a week of living there, he'd made some good friends with two of his neighbors and discovered that the market sells 20 mangoes for the price of a Happy Meal back home in St. Paul. So yeah, needless to say, he plans on staying in Mexico. Now this one has a whole lot of stats. I'm going to read them for the first one, but then I'll just post them for the second one, and I'll also leave a link down below. So if you want to go to the website and do your own research on these different places, because the numbers change daily. But here you go. The typical rent outside city center in a city like Merida is about $350 to $550 a month. Utilities might run you $70 to $100 a month. Groceries, $200 to $250. Eating out for the whole month is in between $120 and $180 for the month. Not sure how many times that means you're going out, but it says modest. Local transport, $25 to $40 a month. Health insurance and clinic visits, $40 to $70. Miscellaneous, haircut, laundry, emergencies, deodorant, things like that, $50 to $80 a month. Brings your estimate for living in a medium city in most of Mexico, $855 a month to $1,270. Number 9, Ecuador. Ecuador is like someone mixed a scenic postcard with a grocery receipt that doesn't trigger heart palpitations. Cuenca, in particular, keeps rent approachable. Costs of utilities and food markets stay gentle if you shop like your neighbors, not like a homesick tourist recreating a Costco run. Healthcare is the quiet star. Good quality private clinics at prices that won't make you refinance your kneecaps. Ecuador is one of those overlooked places that a lot of expats end up, and they love Ecuador. Like every country, they got some places you should probably avoid. And, that's not just Central America or third world countries. Even the United States, even Canada, every place in Europe, they have certain areas that you should avoid. That's just what happens when you have humans living together. Subscribers Frank and Linda said they showed up in Cuenca from Tampa with 2 suitcases and a crock pot. By week 2, the crock pot was making soup for half the neighborhood, Linda said. And she was teaching everyone the phrase, "bring back the container." Frank discovered he's a true believer in the local custom of shop once, walk slow, nap often. Now, the typical monthly cost for a frugal expat is pretty low. I mean, their rent is between $250 and $450 outside city center of Cuenca. Utilities, $80 to $90 a month. Eating out, $100 to $160. Health insurance is $40 to $70, like a lot of these places, which when you add up all the other stuff too, it brings your estimated total between $690 and $1,055. Not bad. Number 8, Colombia. Colombia's comeback story is real. Medellin's eternal spring, walkable pockets, and a metro system that makes American transit cry into its budget requests. Costs are still favorable if you pick the non-tourist streets and keep your avocado toast habit in its lane. Countrywide, both the baseline living costs and rents sit significantly lower than the US levels. In Medellin and many other secondary cities, a budget of $1,000 is feasible if you avoid the digital nomad showcase loft. Those are very expensive, and they know a lot of Americans are moving down there, so there is a lot of places in Medellin and many of the other cities in Colombia that are very, very expensive. Now, you can't avoid those without living in Medellin's, local slums. They've got some good places there. And if you just thinking back to the 1990s reports of Medellin, places like that, no, Bogota, it's not like that anymore. I watched these skaters in Medellin. I think it's Medellin they're at. But at night, they skate down this giant hill. It's like in the mountains above the town, and they just skate down it for, it's a long way. It's not one straight shot. It's winding through the hills. It's amazing. I'll have a link for one of the videos down below. Subscriber Frank from Denver said he moved to Medellin and bought a rain jacket on day one because it was raining serious. Thought about taking it back because it hadn't rained in 10 days. He put the rain jacket in a closet and forgot about it. About 2 days later, it started raining and didn't stop for about a month and a half. He says there's a bunch of shops that do fruit smoothies and it's like they went in the back and picked the fruit themselves. He said the freshest food he's ever had, especially when it comes to fruits and vegetables. The typical monthly cost for a one bedroom, you're looking at $300 to $500 outside city center Medellin. Utilities, $70 to $100 a month. Groceries, $70 to $220. Eating out, $120 to $180. Local transit, $25 to $40. Health insurance is pretty cheap. Insurance and visits, $45 to $80 a month. Altogether, it's in between $770 and $1,190. Number 7, Albania. Yep, we're getting out of South America, heading on over to Europe. Albania is like moving to Europe, but without your wallet weeping. The capital city of Tirana still has rents that are far lower than Western Europe. Groceries are in the same level, and apartments outside city center won't require you to call home every month looking for help with rent. U.S. citizens get a much-loved 365-day free visa stay, which countless YouTube nomads will tell you about between espresso shots. Albania is a great place for Westerners. They want retirees, they want millennials, they want digital nomads to come there, put money into their coffers, and if you come with your own job, even better. They really like those digital nomads and those retirees. Subscriber Karen from Ohio said she landed in Tirana with plans to try it out for 1 month. 6 months later, she knew 3 bakers by name, had opinion on local politics, and claimed the sidewalk cafe outside her building was better than her old living room. And she loved her old living room. She tells anyone that wants to move there, learn the language, and definitely learn how to say thank you and more cheese, please. I guess they got good cheese there. Albania is a beautiful country. I think it's got the second longest coastline with the Adriatic Sea next to Italy. And it's got Greece to the south, so you could always go there for entertainment. It's also surrounded by Kosovo, Montenegro, North Macedonia. Now, for a long time, they were part of the Ottoman Empire, and then they got their independence in 1912. Up until the early 1990s, this was a communist country. They had democratic elections in 1991, and in April of 1991, the communist state was abolished. So it's a good place to live right now. If you want to live outside Tirana, it's a pretty cheap place to live. The rent outside city center is $320 to $500 for 1 bedroom. Utilities, $80 to $110. A couple other things eating out, $90 to $150 a month. When you add all the other stuff, your estimated total for the month is $790 to $1,170. Number 6, Georgia. Yes, not the Georgia that has Atlanta. This is the one in Europe where the capital city is Tbilisi. They just had elections the other day. And the Georgian Dream Party won 76% of the votes. But Tbilisi is where old world charm meets, hey, my rent didn't make me faint. You'll see a range on rents. They have crept up a little bit, but a 1-bedroom outside city core is still manageable. Utilities and food remain friendly. Steve from Chicago swore he would hike every single weekend. He bought boots, posted inspirational quotes, and discovered his local bakery. In the 2 weeks since he's lived in Tbilisi, he's hiked exactly once, and that was up the hill to the bakery. Steve also said that the people there are extremely friendly and willing to help with whatever. They don't care what color you are, where you're from, what language you speak. If you need a friend, you'll find one in Georgia. The typical monthly cost looks something like this. For one bedroom outside city center Tbilisi, $380 to $550 a month. Utilities are relatively low, $70 to $100. When you add all the other things into it, you're going to end up with an estimated total of $830 a month to $1,210 a month. Number 5, the Philippines. If your retirement plan includes beaches, island hopping, and learning 12 words of Tagalog and then apologizing in English, the Philippines is a strong contender. If you hit any of the second-tier cities that aren't like Manila, it's a sweet spot. Reasonable rent, outside the city center, cheap transit, and food that accidentally turns lunch into a 3-hour event. If you do your research, you can find plenty of cities to move to in the Philippines. This has been a hot spot for retired Navy guys for decades and decades. If you really want to see what it's like, I can tell you right now, just type in retire to the Philippines in YouTube, and you will probably find no less than 150 ex-Americans living there with their Filipino wives. It's a beautiful country. The people are wonderful. They do have some areas you probably want to stay out of. They got gorillas in the woods, and I'm not talking about the kind that eat bananas. I'm talking about the guys with AK-47s, those type of gorillas. Now, the Philippines is made up of 7,641 islands. Some of them are not much more than a bunch of rocks, but it's really hard to wander into the wrong kind of island. Now, before you try and correct me, a few years ago, they did think there was 7,107, but they did a recount and realized it's actually 7,641. Again, some of them are just little tiny spits of land. Why was there a change? Better satellites. But the Philippines is a great place to live. The people are wonderful. It's affordable. For decades, many Filipinos come here and they'll get jobs with like the post office or something like that. They'll work there 30 years and they'll move back to the Philippines and live like kings. Our old mailman told us that that's what he was doing. He was towards the end of his career. And he said here in, it was California at the time, he lives in a really crappy apartment in Lomita, which is a small town in Southern California near Los Angeles. And he said when he goes home, he's building a house there, and he'll be able to afford a butler and a cook and things like that with his pension. Now, I haven't talked to him in 15 years, but I'm sure things have changed a little bit, but that was his plan. I don't think he's really going to have a butler, but he said he could afford one there. Yeah, so if you're under any illusion that the idea of moving to the Philippines is something new for Americans, no, it's been going on since before World War II. Bill from Tulsa said he moved to Cebu and immediately developed an extended family. He thought he was moving in with a girlfriend, but apparently he was adopted. He said, buy a snorkel and fins, don't forget sunscreen or you'll learn the color of magenta is possible on human skin. Now, in case you don't know, I usually research these videos a week before I actually upload them. We work on them and stuff like that. Since I researched this one, Cebu City in the Philippines and Bogo City, they've been rocked by a serious earthquake, and right now the death toll is 72. So they're eventually going to clean it up. If you're moving there this week, next month, it's probably not a good idea, but give it a year or so, and I'm sure Cebu City and those other places will be just fine. Now, the typical monthly cost, rent is only about $260 to $380 outside Cebu City Center. So what we would call like the suburbs. Utilities, $80 to $110. Groceries, $170 to $230. Estimated total, once you add all the other things up, $710 to about $1,050. Another thing a lot of people agree on, cereal is amazing, and so is today's sponsor, Magic Spoon Cereal. This stuff actually lives up to the hype. It's tasty, it's sugar-free, it's low on carbs with only 4 to 5 net grams per serving. On top of that, it's packed with protein, 13 to 14 grams per bowl. Basically, it's the cereal you loved as a kid, but now it won't wreck your adult diet. You've got all the classics too. Cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, all the ones we loved just without the sugar. Hey, and if you're not in a cereal mood, you've got protein treats too. These little bars are perfect when you're on the run. Only 1 gram of sugar, but still has 11 to 12 grams of protein. Basically, they make those chalky gas station protein bars feel like sad alternatives. Honestly, they taste so good, you'll think you're cheating on your diet, but no, you're not. You're just hitting your protein goals like a champ. This stuff is magic. If you want to try it, use my code Briggs or hit the link in the description area below for $5 off. You can grab Magic Spoon on Amazon, at your local grocery store, or straight from their site. And here's the kicker. They've got a 100% happiness guaranteed. Don't like it? You get your money back. No awkward emails, no fill out this form, nothing. So click that link or go to magicspoon.com/Briggs, or you could actually scan the QR code. Thanks to Magic Spoon for sponsoring today's video. Now, go get yourself a bowl of magic. Number 4, Indonesia. Indonesia is vast, varied, and very good at tempting you to blow your budget on beachfront everything. Resist the siren song of Bali and look at towns on the outskirts. They've got a whole bunch of mid-sized cities to choose from. Groceries and markets are friendly, scooters are cheap, and even cafe-heavy neighborhoods can be done on the cheap if you live like a local. Be prepared to get strong calves because everyone walks here. They walk or they ride a scooter. Now, cost data across Indonesia shows a wide spread, but outside the premium tourist zones, $1,000 is realistic for steady, low-drama living. Business Insider did a whole write-up on Indonesia, and they said there's a few spots, if you avoid them, you could live perfectly well on $1,000 here. Subscriber Erica from Portland, Oregon, she said she ended up in Bali for 2 years. She said it was magical, but it did get a little expensive. But she said, make sure you just have a rice cooker that's always loaded and ready to go, and you could live perfectly fine in just about any place in Indonesia. She said the people in the countryside are extremely friendly. The cities, are typical cities. You're going to have some people that are nice, some people that aren't so nice. But she said the people in the rural areas are amazing. The typical cost of living in Indonesia: rent for a 1-bedroom outside a non-touristy area, anywhere from $250 to $400. Now, these are the averages. So if you're living there and you go, well, I'm paying $600. Well, okay, find a better place. These are averages. Utilities plus internet, anywhere from $70 to $100. Groceries, $170 to $230. Typical health insurance and visits, $45 to $80. These are American dollars. And when you add all the other things in, your estimated total can be anywhere from $690 to $1,075. Number 3, Vietnam. Vietnam, where frugal budgets go to feel tall. Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City have climbed a bit, but outside the city centers, you'll find 1-bedroom rents that keep you under the line with inexpensive markets and transportation. Vietnam has turned into a great place to live. Sure, they had a war there many decades ago, but that's not the 1960s and 70s Vietnam. This is a different animal completely. A lot of major US companies have some form of manufacturing in the Vietnam area. Nike is a perfect example. I don't know if they still do, but when I worked there about 7 years ago, they had a lot of people that would go over to Vietnam to work there for a year or whatever. A lot of them loved it. I've talked to quite a few of them that came back. One of the wives that I was talking to, their biggest complaint was all the creepy crawlies that, get indoors on you, just weird centipedes and spiders and everything else like that. So if you got a bug problem and don't like humidity, maybe this isn't the best place for you. But a lot of people love Vietnam. The beaches are amazing. The jungle is dangerous but amazing. But just make sure you're okay with being wet all the time, whether it's the humidity or rain. Any list you see, whether it's in a website, magazine, or on YouTube, if they're talking about affordable, Vietnam will always be on those lists, usually towards the top 5. Now, Vietnam is one of those countries that's, let's say, very popular with single males from the United States, Canada, Australia for that matter. It's one of those places where a lot of guys in 50s will be seen out with their 30-year-old girlfriends, or less. Same thing in Thailand and a few other places, but Vietnam, it's a thing. And that's why a lot of men will retire to Vietnam. Doesn't mean it's just older men. Pam from Chicago showed up in Da Nang thinking, I'll just try street food once. 2 months later, she has a favorite cart and she's considered a local at that cart. She also said if you decide you're going to move to Vietnam, sell all your winter clothes and buy some waterproof tennis shoes. Yes, they have them. Gore-Tex tennis shoes. Nike makes them. Check them out. They're great for places like Vietnam, where it rains all the time, and in Portland, Oregon, where it also rains all the time. Now, their typical monthly costs are very reasonable. A 1-bedroom outside city center in just about any of the major cities or the medium cities can be around $260 to $340 a month. Utilities and internet, $60 to $90 a month. Groceries, $170 to $220. You add up all the other things and it comes out to about $675 a month to $965. If you want to live like a king, it's going to be $1,500 a month, honestly. Number 2, Paraguay. Paraguay is the stealth option. Ascension basics are inexpensive. Utilities are gentle, and rent outside the shiny bits is often the kind of number that makes a spreadsheet giggle. Now, this is one of the least visited countries in South America, and it's one of the most beautiful ones. If you look at all the other countries in South America, they've all got a lot of problems, and It could be argued that Paraguay is one of the countries that has the least problems. Even though the prices are climbing a little bit in this country, it is still very, very affordable. Paraguay is definitely a hot spot for Americans that Americans don't know about yet. Life in Paraguay for Americans feels like you accidentally moved into the world's friendliest witness protection program. No one's looking for you, and the neighbors always make sure you have something to eat. You'll spend the first month learning that mañana can mean tomorrow, next week, or whenever the humidity takes a lunch break. Ascension's traffic is a delightful game of guess what lane. The currency looks like Monopoly money until you realize that your grocery bill was actually just $12. And every social event involves grilling enough meat to frighten a cardiologist. One thing you need to know about, the Wi-Fi occasionally takes a personal day, geckos consider your kitchen a timeshare, and yet you're wildly happy. Janet from Boston swears she was just passing through on a vacation. She just wanted to try the local food and experience Paraguay. She was actually a cook in Boston, and now she owns her own grill in Ascension. She also has a hammock for research, what often turns into a daily nap. Typical monthly costs? Rent in a one-bedroom outside city center is about $220 to $350 a month. Utilities $60 to $90. Groceries anywhere from $160 to $210. When you start adding all that stuff up, your estimated total for the month can be between $605 and $925. That is not bad. All right, before we get to number one, if you've not clicked that subscribe button, we would really appreciate it if you did. Go ahead and do it right now. I'll wait. All right, you do it. Let's move on. And number one, Cambodia. Yes, right next door to Vietnam, you got Cambodia, and here's your champion for stretching the dollar until Lincoln files a complaint. For a long time, Cambodia was considered the least lucky Asian country. They've got a pretty dark history, especially with the Khmer Rouge. Communism didn't really work out for the locals. But if you want to move here, Phnom Penh is where a lot of people will move, and its average rent can be amazingly reasonable. Secondary cities even more so. And day-to-day prices, produce, street food, basic services, are famously kind to modest budgets. Whatever you do, just make sure you save a lot of money for fans, because it is hot, humid, and you're going to want some fans in your house. But living in Cambodia as an American is like moving into a sauna that serves $2 noodles and insists you ride to dinner in a motorized bathtub called a tuk-tuk. You'll lose weight faster than your wallet does. You won't be spending a lot of money here. During monsoon season, the sidewalks turn into surprise canals, and the expat Facebook groups argue over which dollar fruit shake is overrated. And almost every single day, you will sweat through your shirt before lunch. Now, Cambodia is one of the countries in this area that it's not as popular with older single men. They'll be going to other places, like Vietnam. But I think Cambodia is underrated, especially for Americans, Westerners, really Canadians, Australians, like I said earlier. And I think over the next handful of years, it might change a little bit. More and more Westerners will be moving to Cambodia. Here's the typical monthly costs. A one-bedroom outside city center or a secondary city can be anywhere from $200 to $320. That's a month's worth of rent. That's insane. Utilities plus internet can be $70 to $110 a month. Groceries, $150 to $200. Eating out, $90 to $140 is not bad. Health insurance, $35 to $60 for insurance or visits. Once you add everything up, your estimated monthly cost to live in Cambodia is about $595 to $920 a month. That is insane. Now, there's a few reality checks we have to hear. Visas and long stay rules change more often than airline seating size. Healthcare access and quality vary inside each country. Big city tourist zones cost more. Second-tier cities and outskirts are your friend. And yes, if you try and recreate your exact US lifestyle with imported brands, daily chain coffee, and furnished lofts overlooking the hottest plaza, your budget will tap out like a wrestler in a chokehold. But if you live like the locals, go to their markets, take public transit, buy a scooter, go to neighborhood eateries, get a sensible apartment, yeah, you could live in these places for around $1,000. Now, like I said at the beginning of the video, these numbers change all the time, probably in about a week. They get updated all the time, so don't call me out on my numbers if they're wrong a month from now, or off a little bit. For the most part, they'll stay close to what I just gave you. All right, everyone, have a great day. Be nice to each other.